Boy. Hey, hey.
Oh, hey.
Hey, it's you.
How did we get here?
Oh, it's me.
I thought we were launching through space and time, lost for 10,000 years.
On a mission we were never meant to return from.
But we returned somehow.
Oh, through the horrible secrets of space.
And we're here.
At the comic shop.
Comic Shop.
Wow.
The Comic Shop does a podcast with me, Al Simmons.
Oh, and it's
Oh,
me,
wait, no, not Al Simmons.
Evan Coy. We're here with
Aaron Lee.
very special guest star. Oh, I didn't change. You're Martin Kinney today.
Martin
We're just going to
Kinney.
give you the Martin Kinney billing.
Well, Martin's back there. He's back there.
And we're here with Jonathan Ashline and very special guest, Damian Schofield, professor of...
Human-computer interaction.
So I'm going to go back to last year because literally this is fascinating that a year ago to the day we had you on to talk AI.
None of us can believe that. It was
Well,
a year
you
ago.
might be drunk.
There's been some disruption in space-time.
Yeah. So I don't know if you remember last year, but I had ChatGPT work up a bio for you.
Okay.
I know. It was 80% correct.
No, it was 80% incorrect. I had ChatGPT work up a new bio for you, and I thought that this was
Oh.
interesting.
No,
'cause-
you didn't. Okay.
So I'm going to go over some of the old bio here. Damian Schofield is a highly regarded college professor who currently serves as an associate professor of biology at SUNY Oswego in New York. He has a passion for teaching and is dedicated to the field of biology for over 25 years. He's earned a Bachelor of Science degree in zoology from the University of Wales and has his PhD in reproductive endocrinology from the
At which
University
point
of
I
Wales.
told you in the last one that reproductive endocrinology was my
Hobby, yes, I
Not
do
my
remember that
word.
joke.
So I'll do the same joke
He
again.
then went on to
Thank you.
complete a postdoctoral fellowship at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City, where he conducted. So
None of that
it
is
goes
correct.
on
So,
and
you know,
on
I'm
incorrect.
a computer science professor, so no, none
So
of that. is
this was the
correct.
bio that I pulled up this year. So this is a year later using the same piece of software. Damian Schofield is a distinguished academic researcher, educator, and renowned for his expertise in computer science, cognitive science, and artificial intelligence. He currently serves as a professor at the State University of New York at Oswego, SUNY Oswego, where he brings his wealth of knowledge and passion for interdisciplinary studies to the forefront of education. With a career spanning over 2 decades, Dr. Schofield has established himself as a leading authority in various fields intersecting technology and cognition. His research and interests encompass a broad spectrum of topics, including computer and human interaction, virtual reality, computational neuroscience, and the ethical implications of emerging technologies. And it goes on. How
Yeah,
much more accurate is
that's
that?
pretty accurate. Two things. You still can't pronounce my name.
Thank you.
Well, that's not a problem.
Second, I'm not distinguished and don't have a wealth of knowledge, but most of the other stuff was okay.
But more importantly, I can't pronounce your name, and I asked
But
that.
that wasn't ChatGPT's problem. That was your problem.
It was actually ChatGPT actually spelled your name incorrectly, and I was reading that. So I found that to be interesting that this was a year ago when I asked it this question to the same piece of software, and instead of just making things up, it seemed to zone in on who you are.
I'll start this podcast by saying I am not an expert in modern AI technologies. I know we talk about this. I have some knowledge, but this is not what I teach. My colleague John, I tried to get him to come here. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it, but he teaches a lot more of the large language models like ChatGPT. And he has exactly the same feeling that you're saying, that I am, that they are progressing so fast.
Oh, yeah.
He said we have been teaching these language models for 10 years since GPT-1, and talking about them. But he said the jump from GPT-3 to GPT-4 was incredible.
Are we at GPT-4? I feel like this was like a 3.5 or something I saw, but maybe
A
I'm
lot of
wrong.
the
I don't
public-
know.
If you're not paying, you may be on GPT-3.
Okay.
0.5, yeah. But GPT-4 is unbelievable. When you talk to it, you're talking to a person. That's what it feels like.
That is wild. I feel a sense of urgency lately with how rapidly technology is changing. And we're all getting older.
Not me.
Maybe not, but I'm getting older. And it was one of those things as a kid, I was very much into computers, and I would like go into the BIOS of my dad's work computer and fool around with things, and had a hex editor program that I would go in and I would customize video games to like change text and color and
I used to copy video game programs out of magazines and type them in to get.
I used to go to the library and do
on
like
the Spectrum and the ZX81, all those old
Yep.
home computers. Yeah, I did it.
Do you guys remember the first Dark Forces Star Wars game?
Oh yeah.
Have I told you the story already? I modified the grenade launcher into a chicken. I drew a chicken, so the chicken would launch the grenades in Dark Forces.
Always the artist.
but I feel like there's again, this is something as a kid, I was into technology when I went to college. I was never the computer expert, but I was always, if you can't get a hold of Chris, ask Evan, and Evan will help you figure out
Where's
what you're.
Chris now?
He's a doctor. He's the smartest person I know.
Oh, why can't we get him on the
We probably can't get him on the
We gotta
podcast.
replace you on the podcast.
Yeah, he
No, I'm just kidding.
he was at the Joe Biden inauguration. They kept showing
Oh.
him and his child at the Joe Biden
Oh.
inauguration.
Okay.
So that's what he's doing. I'm here
Okay.
with you guys. But I get older. Technology starts to escape me as I'm 42, and I feel like I'm starting to lose my edge on all of this software stuff and the things that come out. And it's coming out in such a rapid succession.
Starting
part
to
of-
lose your edge.
And part of me is an artist too, and Aaron's helped me read it. I'm going to give you a compliment here.
Oh, thank you.
Aaron's helped me rediscover art in the past few years and the importance of creating and putting something. Jonathan, same, inspires me as well. I talk to Aaron all the time. I don't get to see Jonathan as much, but like somebody in my circle that like inspires me to create. And I see all of this AI stuff, and particularly the video that you shared a few weeks ago or whatever it was.
Google Lumiere. Yeah.
Google Lumiere. And the wildly powerful technology that's out there that I feel a sense of urgency late. And I keep saying this, that I want to create something before my understanding of how we create art and literature and it changes forever with these wildly powerful technologies. And I just wanted somebody to talk to about that, because it's not that it scares me, but it scares me a bit that it's something that's new and it's something that's so radically different than the previous 40 years of my life that I've known. I just didn't think that a technology like this would be so disruptive for the creative world, but it's going to be disruptive for everyone. And I think that there's going to be a lot of upside and a lot of downside, but it's a lot of change. And it's one thing I know that people hate is change. And that's one of those things that I look at and I go, this change is coming so rapidly and so quickly. Yeah, you gotta say that I'm not scared, but it scares me a little bit. And so you had such keen insight the last time that we spoke in regards to, no, you did. I don't know if you know this, you're a very intelligent man. But I just wanted to kind of circle back to that conversation a year later, which oddly enough, yeah, here we are exactly a year later, to see what your perspective on things is in regards to how rapidly technology is changing, and what does that look like for somebody like Aaron, who
I got tenure, man. I'm the old model. They got to keep me until I'm done.
But will you have to change your curriculum though to teach kids? Will you be teaching kids how to use AI? You can say no, but I don't believe you. I think you're gonna,
Well, because okay, I'm not gonna say anything else because I was about to go on it. I'll tell you after the podcast.
all right.
I don't want to get myself in trouble.
I don't know, Jonathan. Let's start with you. You used AI as a tool. We talked about this last week to help you write your new book.
Right.
Do you feel as though AI will be replacing you as a writer 3 years down the line, 5 years down the line?
No, because I think it still needs a hand behind it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think it still needs human direction.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
I think that's the key, is like the human leading the technology, the tool. And that's what I like strive to stay on top of, is how to use this tool and how to integrate it into what I already do, and how to learn it as best I can.
Aaron, you use AI as a tool as well.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain how your relationship with AI has maybe changed in the past, and it maybe hasn't changed in the past year, but certainly in the past couple years. This went from being something that wasn't a tool at all to now it's something that, and you can speak on. I don't know how often you use it, but I know you use it for reference because we talk
Oh, yeah.
about stuff.
Yeah. I mean, at first I used something called Crayon, which is a free resource for images, and with that you could get like if you ran a bunch, if you just ran a bunch of like read in your prompt and just run a bunch of images, eventually you'll get an image that's kind of like what you want. And I have the history of being an artist and studying and stuff, so like I can get most of the pose that I want and most of the lighting, and I can just kind of fill in the gaps with what I know. But that is not really if you don't want to fill in the gaps, you don't have to anymore. But the thing is, it's all kind of driven by a human idea, right? So I'll send you stupid ideas that I have.
Which he does. You send me funny, like, whatever. We won't get into it. But it's just silly things.
But that's what you need in order to make the AI relevant. Because if you have terrible ideas or just like dumb ideas can be wonderful. But if you have boring ideas, if you're using the AI to make those boring ideas a reality, they're still going to be boring. You know what I mean? So you still need that spark of human creativity or silliness, or you just have to embrace I kind of like the older versions of like the writing things because of the broken syntax and like and the way that it pulls from things. It doesn't quite do things right. I personally find that funny. I know not everybody has that sense of humor, but you got to have, in order to make compelling things with the tool, you still have to have creativity and tenacity at one end of it. Because if you just, I don't know, generating like LeBron James dunking, like it's cool, but like how like
there's no spark of creativity behind it.
Right.
I think that's very important.
Yeah.
The human brings.
Yeah, like when I first started using AI, like I started drawing like more than I ever had like in the past. I mean, I draw all the time, but like that summer when I started using Crayon, I had like a little notebook and like I was just drawing like whenever I wasn't taking care of my daughter, I was just drawing. I was like generating reference. I'm like, oh my god, I can get the exact reference for the storytelling that I want to do, and or close to it, right? And so like, it just it's a way to kind of like cut out all of that sketchbook work. You know what I mean? Not that some people probably would think that's blasphemy, but like when you're a person who has limited time and it's not your main gig, the closer you can get to the final, because it's all me drawing all of it anyway. So it's not like there's not labor in it. You know what I mean?
Shout out to Dwarf Rampage TV who just followed
anyway,
us.
I mean, that's kind of how I work, and then sometimes I do unplugged stuff too, where I don't look at any stuff and just draw out of my head. But
Dwarf Rampage TV. Hello from Germany. Hello from America.
Guten Tag.
Guten Tag. Damian,
we love Germany.
So can I respond to what
Yes,
you said
yes.
first before you ask me another question?
Yes.
Firstly, you said I'm an intelligent guy. I'm going to give you a quick little rant I always do.
Sure.
Uh-oh.
I work in a university full of stupid people, and they all have PhDs, Thank God we keep them away from the rest of you on the campus.
No, that's a service you provide, and I appreciate that.
Intelligence has just because you read more papers on Greek history than other people doesn't make you intelligent. It makes you educated.
Okay.
So
There is a distinction between that. I understand.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
I do find you intelligent.
HCR. You talked about interfaces and the technology is running away from you, but you were very contradictory in what you said.
Okay.
As usual.
Yeah. No, I talk out of both
Because-
sides of my mouth.
Because you were saying you feel like the technology is moving away from you, but what we're actually moving towards, I study here and teach human-computer interaction, how we interact with computers. You can type, to learn Photoshop takes hundreds of hours.
Yes.
And it's a skillful thing you have to learn. Now you can type a sentence that says, create an image of a dog eating cheese on the moon riding a unicycle.
Hell
And
yeah.
it will do that. Now, the thing is that doesn't take the same level of skill. So you were saying you feel like the technology is moving away in terms of the skill level you need. No, it's exactly the opposite. We're moving to a place where people have access to things they couldn't do before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, whether it's writing like Jonathan using an AI, or students cheating on essays, or creating a web comic, as Aaron was saying, the way he uses it, or as I showed you, creating movies.
Yes.
It's moving to an area where more and more people will have access to this. Why is that a bad thing, that everyone can do something and have fun with it and play with it? And, I know there are issues in other areas, but the interface issue you mentioned isn't an issue. We call it a natural interface.
I think it's just, to me, I'm going to go back to that. It's just a radical change.
Oh, it is a
And
change.
I understand that the barrier for entry into the creative world by using these apps, these AI things, yeah, I think it's great. I think the more people creating and writing and drawing and making music, the better.
It's the same in my field. I'm a computer scientist. The AI apps can now write programs.
Yes.
So people can write apps and build apps without having the same level of years of learning how to program. And I don't see that as a bad thing. I think it's a good thing, but the issue is quality control, as
Yes.
always, and, the same as it is in other fields.
Yes. 100%. Yeah, and the thing that, because I was a designer and stuff, and too, you've probably run into this, that just because something is done and technically works for a thing does not make that thing good.
And it doesn't make it it doesn't make it sustainable either.
Right.
Because who's going to keep it up? Who's going to change it? Who's going to... Yeah. There's a lot of questions about this stuff,
And I just think about like design and stuff like that. Like, well, actually, I've seen a lot of AI graphic design. It's actually quite good. But just in a lot of these places that are using these types of things weren't ever going to spend the money on a real designer anyways. The thing that I worry about is like Disney, with the Secret Invasion opening, like they used AI graphics to do the morphing and stuff like that. And it's like when a corporation as big as Disney jumps to that to save a buck, especially we were talking about this on a previous episode, they had those the She-Hulk episode, they had these great bumpers at the end of the show that were these courtroom illustrations that kind of reflected events of the show or a little bit extra from the show, and they're absolutely beautiful, and they're done by a person. That's when there's a company that has the resources to hire talented people to do a thing, and they
End
should.
of The Mandalorian with the artwork being shown. It was beautiful.
Yeah, they can afford to do that. I could understand like a small scrappy startup trying to do a thing and them using stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's the nature of a corporation, right? It's like you got to make as much money and spend as little money as possible. It's just,
the workplace is going to change for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I hear stories every day. So, one of my alumni, student, came back to talk to my current students about her job and what she was doing. And one of them asked her, "Do you use AI?" And she said, "I have to do statistics on my job, and the statistics package she uses has a new AI reporting feature."
Mm-hmm.
And she clicked on it, and she didn't want to use it. She wasn't interested, but she clicked on it to see what it did, and it produced a perfect report on all the data she collected. And it's like, she just said, that saved me 3 hours.
Yes.
And that's a good thing. These are what the tools should do,
Right.
and more people are using them in this way. The art field is a little different. It's not my field. I appreciate that. But I hope people see these as tools. that will, as you were saying, Aaron, how you use it. It's a tool that
Right.
helps you do things faster,
And
if that's a good thing. And
Yes.
there are bad sides to it, but let's try and use them in a way that helps us.
Yeah, and it's I think I don't even know if Adobe is one that's free of like scraping like copyrighted images. I feel like
Adobe just yesterday announced PDF summarization on their Reader and Acrobat. So if you have a text document in Reader or Acrobat, there's now a summarization button. You click it, and it gives you an AI summary of whatever. It can give you an AI summary of a 200-page
like
book
that,
in
though.
2 or 3 pages.
because some as a teacher you get these emails of these PDFs that it's like, is this relevant to me? And then, you read through it and you're like, okay, they had absolutely nothing to do with me. So maybe that's something I want to.
They will give you. I was playing today. I've never used it before, but I'm trying to get my students to use it. I played with video summarization. I had an hour-long lecture by Baroness Greenfield. She's a neuroscientist in England, and I had a video of hers, and I used a video summarization. I got a 1-page, and it created paragraphs for every 5 minutes of the video. And told me what each 5 minutes was about. Before I watched the video, I could say, "Oh, I just want to watch that piece of the video."
Yeah.
Aaron, you were talking about Adobe taking images or data scraping.
I don't. Well, you're familiar with this, right? About how a lot of these image data sets.
Oh, well, yeah.
Just pull from images that are on the web, whether they're copyrighted or not.
That's a different issue.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Adobe
Copyright.
may be in a different thing just because they're so big. I can't speak if they're totally free of that, but there's obviously a lot of dislike of that, and like even me saying that like I generate reference could be like very controversial in some of the art circles that I run in. But
a year ago, when we had our talk a year ago, you asked me about this, and I'm not an expert on it, but obviously, if you're using people's work without accreditation, it's plagiarism. You know, it is. And the very fact that these AI systems have scraped the web, and you can say, create me an image in the style of this artist, is an issue because it's obviously scraped that artist's work.
Right.
Now, the other side of that is that artist's work is displayed on the internet for free. And people, it's obviously, you can look at that art. So, and again, we had this conversation a year ago. It becomes a very difficult subject because if I love an artist and I do a painting that is in the style of that artist because I like them, is that plagiarism?
I think that was the discussion that we had because
that's the discussion we had a year ago. And
I'm very much influenced by Eric Larson. He's my favorite Spider-Man artist of the 90s. And although my style has changed greatly from just copying his images over and over when I was in 7th grade in study hall and just tracing over comics, I'm wildly influenced by him. And if I was to do a book in that 90s style, to me, that's not plagiarism, but it's
why
also
is it plagiarism is if an AI does it.
And I think that that's a great debate to have
because it's not a copy of the original picture. And as I said, I'm not an expert in this, but it's if a human does it, it's okay, and if an AI does it, it isn't. That's a question to ask.
Yeah.
Well, and then I think you also can get into, if we're talking art in comics, what's the difference between a swipe and an homage? That like a swipe is somebody blatantly stealing someone else's design and page layout and passing it off on their own, whereas an homage is they're using that and acknowledging, hey, like this was a very influential page or sequence to me when I was a kid, and now I'm sneaking it into my own book, but not in a way of out of love and respect, and not necessarily out of theft and deception.
But not a homage is something else. But just exactly what you said. You love this artist. When you draw something, you may try and copy his style a little bit because you like it and it's how you like to draw, and that's okay. But this question of creating new material on a style is very different, because does the artist own the style or the technique, or do they own the individual pieces of work? And in the law, they own the individual pieces of work.
Right.
So it's a difficult one. If an AI creates something that is so similar to a piece of work that they did, then yes, it's plagiarism. But if it's a new piece of work that just happens to be in that style, and I don't have answers to this, but it's
If you don't have
questions
answers,
need
we
to
may
ask.
ask you to leave.
I think
What about in regard to a corporation doing this? Like Stephen King's publishing house wants to do a Stephen King book without paying Stephen King.
Yeah.
Where is that?
We literally just had this conversation in the bar, didn't we? About creating. I was posing the hypothetical question to Jonathan that I like Garth Ennis.
Yes.
You know, I love The Boys. If Garth Ennis died, and an AI could create a new season of Garth Ennis comics, you know, The Boys, the next season, I'd love that. You know, that I could read it. Now, The Boys is owned by Garth. You know, he created that. He has copyright of the characters, but that's something different, you know.
yes.
And if his estate got money and an AI created it, we were just discussing this. I said, I'd be happy with that, because I get another season of this comic I love.
You know, and one of my main complaints about like modern day comics, you know, going back a while, is like you would like a character, there'd be a certain creative team on that character that you absolutely love. Like I always think about like Adam Kubert was like a formative artist for me on Wolverine when I was growing up, and because just the level of detail that he had, like he could do maybe 2 or 3 issues in a row. He'd have to take a break. Somebody else would have to do a few issues, and then he would come back and do 2 or 3 more issues. If they had this technology where they could have replicated his style in order to give him a break.
But then the question to you is, if you could have another, what was his name? Adam Hubert?
Kubert.
Hubert. So if you could have more comics of him doing Wolverine, created by AI, you'd be happy. Now, to me, there is an issue with paying the creator. You know,
Yes.
But I just think this is wonderful. You know, that we can have things that we couldn't have before. I'm a movie fan, as you know.
Yes.
I can have new Humphrey Bogart movies.
Yeah.
I love Humphrey Bogart. Jimmy Stewart.
I'm sure it's already underway.
If a new Jimmy Stewart movie came out and it was done in the same style as the ones he had before, and it was completely and it was as good as the others, I'd be so happy, you know, that I had another Jimmy Stewart movie.
There is something that I think about in regards to the technology. Like, is there a point where, you know, as creative people, you know, like, you know, we're all creatives to some degree here.
I'm not.
Well,
I just
you
ruin
write code and
everyone's
stuff.
life
Yeah.
with technology,
Well,
with established.
Well,
No,
that's
but you
creative
but
in
you
its own way.
appreciate the arts. You have an appreciation
Yes.
for creativity, and I don't believe that you're not a creative person.
But like-
I believe you're a creative
But
person.
they're able to generate artwork that's reminiscent of living artists and artists that have since passed away. At what point could I scan all of the images that I have that I've created over the course of a lifetime and feed it into a generator, and now I have an AI that will draw things how I draw? You know what I mean?
Let me tell you a really scary story about that.
Good.
Technology that has existed for almost 10 years now. You're on Facebook, okay?
Yes.
So you can have an AI. This has been going on for years. You can have an AI scan your Facebook page, look at every post you ever made, every image you posted, everything. Yeah. And if you were to pass away tomorrow, I hope you don't, but if you
thank
were
you.
to
Thank
pass
you.
away, if you were to pass away tomorrow, that AI could take over your Facebook page, and no one would know that you were dead.
Probably do it better.
It would still post the same things you post, the same images, the same thing. We all think we're individuals in these kind of, but an AI algorithm can do that, and they are available right now. You can sign up for one, and if you pass away, your Facebook page keeps going. Actually, in the next 20, 30 years, there are going to be more dead people on Facebook than live people. That's another issue Facebook has. But anyway, seriously,
Sounds like a
it's
great
an
plot
issue.
for a comic, actually.
It's an issue. There's a lot of dead people Facebook pages.
Yeah.
And all, a hell of a
I have
lot of
some.
them.
I have some too.
Yeah, I've got them. But, they're filling up Facebook. But if that exists, the same thing you talk about putting all your images in and just expecting, of course it can keep going. I was telling Jonathan a story that this happened to me last week. I've been teaching the philosophy section of my transhumanism class where we talk about Nietzsche, Baudrillard, free will, consciousness, all the things that are important to artificial intelligence, that we're going to talk about in the rest of the class. And I've been doing this, and one of my students literally came into class last week and said, I created a Nietzsche chatbot. He put all Nietzsche's works into a chatbot, and he's doing his homework assignment on Nietzsche and talking to Nietzsche about his homework assignment.
That's pretty
while
wild.
he's doing it. Yeah, and that's what I mean. You can put all this stuff into an AI system and it will just work. And he's, just working it.
Because there's obviously a lot of issues there, but like the thing with like doing a creative work, like the closer you could get something to generate what you would make anyway, you just get to the point of like pure ideation. You know what I mean? Where you're just writing, okay, panel 1, scene 1. I need this kind of composition, this kind of lighting, this figure's here, this figure's here, this figure's here, and then you just go boom, 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 boom.
I'll be honest, I've thought the same thing, that I could create a comic now. I can't draw, but I could talk to an AI and create small comics myself.
Yes, you can.
By using AI generation, and it's something I'd love to do, and I've never had the time, the opportunity, but I'm happy about that I can have a go at this, and do something that maybe I'd like. Maybe I can be a creative.
Yeah. Oh, that's. I mean, well, part of my job is to like break the what do you call it? The brainwashing of most humans, right? It's like, oh, I can only draw stick figures. So
I know.
So I'm programmed to be like, yes, absolutely, you can be a creative. But I truly believe that too. Like if there's something you want to do that's creative, absolutely, you could even spend like 5 minutes a day. You could get something done.
I know, and even if it's not very good, I've done something. It's just it occurred to me as something I'd like to do, because I've often thought of attending your workshops. Just to do something I've never done before.
Got one coming this summer.
Yeah, we do have one coming up this summer. So it'll be here at the public library if you're around.
We're doing a 3-day course at the public library to teach
Aaron,
comics.
stop turning your microphone around.
Oh.
I'm watching you do it.
I'm gonna get to
We
the,
just had
the
a
full
discussion
the
about
full
that
perpendicular.
before this started.
Just
so,
want to get that microphone perpendicular. but there's something like even if what you make is rudimentary, it doesn't mean that it can't be affecting or reach people in some way.
Important to me.
Correct.
Which
Yes.
is what's important as
Yes.
well.
And even with all this AI stuff, like even if I could generate something, the stuff that I make with my own hands is always going to mean more to me than anything I generate. with a
I
computer
said
too.
this to Evan the other day. He was talking about, just as he did in his long...
Did I really talk
no,
so long?
His question, which had about 6 questions in
Yes.
it, that, he said about loving, creating, and becoming more, feeling like he wants to do it more, and the technology is overwhelming him. And I have the same feeling that people who want to do things will always do things.
Yes.
Because it's in our human nature to do it. I think... we didn't all have cameras before.
Right.
We now, everybody has a camera, and people take some great pictures sometimes by accident. But it exists, and people are proud of them, and they like their pictures they take. Why is that a bad thing?
No.
It's an available technology.
I just feel like we talk about it as a tool, but I feel like we're going from Photoshop, which is like a muzzle loading musket, to this AI stuff, which is like a machine gun or Abrams tank, where it's just
the pace of change is incredible.
I do have a question from my mom
The
here,
movie
too.
I sent you that you saw that inspired you to call me back here was the Lumiere one.
Mm-hmm.
And I was literally in a bar with the director of cognitive science, and he is the guy who teaches ChatGPT, learning models, all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, and he got a notification that this had appeared. We were in the rooftop bar in Oswego, and he had it on his phone. And he said, "Damian, you should see this." We watched it 10 times,
Mm-hmm.
and we couldn't believe it. And it's our job.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
this is the stuff we work in. And then, of course, OpenAI announced Sora within a week because, of course, they did, because you know they're battling for this ecosystem, whose technology you're going to use. But yeah, it's mind blowing, and we can't keep up with the pace. You know.
So my mom has a question. My mom is an artist. Is there a point at which, due to the ease and speed of AI creation, that comics or any art form saturates the market and thus becomes obsolete due to overexposure?
AI becomes obsolete. Or
No,
the
I don't
human
think.
becomes
I think
obsolete?
I think it's the human becomes obsolete because I think that like it's there's
I
the
think she means the product itself becomes obsolete. Like there's
or the product. Yeah. Okay. I think okay. The great part about all of this is it lowers that barrier of entry to where you, as someone who is a non-artist, can now create art using these programs. Does it become so, like, is it the TV problem that we have now where there's just so much stuff being produced that you can't keep track of everything? And like,
Oh, absolutely, that's going to happen. We're going to have way more media content. Yeah.
I mean, you could say that. I mean, you talked about TV, but you can even say that with comics now, like with the previews book, and then like Marvel. Doesn't Marvel have its own previews?
Sure.
And then DC has its own previews. There's Martin, is it small enough that you can keep up with?
Yes. Currently, yeah.
Okay.
For the most part, yeah. But there's a lot of smaller companies that make it a little bit more difficult. But if you take those smaller companies and just blow it up so much, it is our point true where it's just too much to keep track of. And
because I think about, we talked a little bit about this the other day, of what does the comic artist or author look like in the future? That Jonathan, you put out, let's say you put out a book a year, a book every 9 months, whatever it is. With using AI, does it become you put out a book a month because AI is generating content speaking about the topics you want to speak of, and you're just going back and editing and using your understanding of language and your voice to kind of craft that, where now all of a sudden you can put out 10 books a year? Or is the X-Men artist, is Adam Kubert, he could only put out 6 or 8 books a year. Now is he responsible for doing the entire X-Men line because everything has been fed into a machine, and he is just going back and doing corrections and moving panels around and regenerating scenes, and now there's one person who's kind of creating the content for an entire line of magazines. And again, what does that look like with other artists? Do artists become art directors where now you're creating wide lines of content? Do authors now become whole lines of, like a whole subgroup under a publisher where you're doing like multiple books of different, like what? And I know that the answer is we don't know what that's going to look like, but I feel like that's where we're possibly trending.
Okay. 2 things here. Aaron talked about, when he was talking earlier, he used the term disruptive, that technology can disrupt things. Yeah.
And I've used that term as well.
Yeah, it's we talk about disruptive technologies. Cell phones, we all have cell phones. It was one year no one had them, the next year everyone had the one.
Yep.
The smartphone. My favorite example is augmented reality. 1 month, the only people using augmented reality were NASA, the military, and large research labs on universities. And then this thing called Pokemon Go came out. and everyone's just sees
Yes.
it. Within a week, everyone saw the technology as normal.
The summer of
And every
2016,
day.
I believe.
And that's what's happened with AI, this disruption that it appears, it changes things, and all of a sudden we're all doing things differently because of it. Now, unfortunately, that's very unpredictable what people will actually do with the technology and how
Right.
they will use it. So all this technology is appearing, and you're saying, will this happen? Will that happen? We honestly don't know.
Yes.
And I don't think anyone knows what future industries, the real estate industry, the banking industry, the legal industry, the comics industry, they're all going to use AI, but none of us know where and how. Honestly, we don't. And we always, if we try and do predictions, we're always wrong.
Yes.
I mean, if we believed in predictions, we'd have flying cars.
Right.
So the Jetsons. I mean, where's my robot made?
Yeah.
I mean, it just didn't happen. We all think and I've made lots of predictions with my students in classes, and I've been wrong so many times. So it's very, very hard to predict. We can see the technology as it comes, as it disrupts, as it arrives. My favorite story is text messaging. The phone companies never believed anyone would ever want to type a text message rather than talk to someone because it's so much more work. And so Nokia added they had some free channel space on there, and the engineers used it to send messages to each other. So as a gimmick, they added text messaging, and all of a sudden, all of their users were using it. So they started charging for it.
Oh, yeah.
And because you cannot predict what people will do with technology and how they will use it.
Well, they stumbled into that one because there was this wonderful thing called AOL Instant Messenger,
Yeah.
which I grew up on, which is how I stayed in touch with people. So as soon as you took that same thing and said, hey, now you can do this from anywhere,
Well, yeah.
it's like, well, yeah, I'm going to do that because I'm trying to stay in touch with my people.
But the phone companies didn't predict it.
Yeah.
They didn't see it. They weren't ready for it. And, now they earn billions off it. But, it's and the whole of social media, we all just type to each other all the time. It's insane. Instead of talking, but no one talks to each other anymore. We know that. No
I'm the only one who
answers
makes phone
phones.
calls.
I would love to see like a.
There's like a secret app on here where every one of these devices has a hidden number. And if you type that number in, you can actually voice talk to someone, but no one uses it.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
You know what I'd love to see is how they have these History Channel shows where they uncover like a historic document and they hire a voice actor to be like Benjamin Franklin on
yeah.
such and such day wrote a letter to his friend and such. I would love to see like 100 years in the future that they dig up like somebody's like Facebook messages. It's like, and then Aaron Lee said to Evan Coy, check out this farting Norman Rockwell.
You can see it, Donald Trump's tweets being read by.
Oh God. Yeah, that's a bit that's already been done, I think. Oh boy. Yeah. Oof.
Maybe you can talk a little bit. What is it? Transhumanism? Is that what you refer to?
Yeah,
what you
I
teach?
think I talked about this last time, having the chip in my hand
Yes.
and all that. Yeah.
What does that look like in regards to like how we're going to interface with this technology in the future? That currently
Transhumanism is about how humans are going to change, and the last few months have been insane in that as well. Elon Musk put a chip in a guy's head.
yes.
He got permission to do this. Now, even at the college, we can control computers from our brainwaves.
Yeah, explain
but we-
this to Aaron because I thought this was fascinating.
No, but we have, but it's an external helmet kind of thing. It's a net you put over your head that measures brainwaves, and you can control a computer. You can move a cursor backwards and forwards.
Are you for real?
It's called Cerebro.
You can find other mutants? No.
Yeah,
Is that what you whispered?
but it's a piece of technology that sits on your head, yeah?
Yeah.
Whereas what Elon Musk has now done is they've done it with animals before, but they've never done it on a human. But they've done it on a human now, where they have a direct neural connection into the brain. So they are connecting the brain to a computer, or not even to a computer, to a wireless link that links to a computer. And that person can now control a computer from their brain without the external measurement. It's a direct brain link.
So now you're
wireless?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. Entirely wireless. I mean, the input, but like they are operating something wireless.
yeah, I mean, so long as your Wi-Fi connection doesn't go down, you can control a computer. Yeah.
So then this becomes, is the future of AI us thinking about what we imagine to be?
I keep telling you, predictions
Yeah,
are awful.
I'm sorry.
Predictions are awful, but I personally believe the transhumanist idea, the class, we use this as a stepping stone to examine future technologies. That's what the class is about. But the transhumanist philosophy idea is that we are the last few generations of humans to walk this planet,
Yes.
because humans will evolve into something else through technology, the rate it is going. The neural chip. If there is a perfectly safe chip that you put in your head and it triples your speed of thought and you never forget anything ever,
Because there is
why
a
would you not have it?
I hear it explained that there is like a bandwidth issue almost with how the brain works, that you can only get so much information. Like if I'm typing on a keyboard, I can only go so fast. If I'm doing like there's just a limit to how data
I'm getting
is
older and I forget more and more things. It drives me insane.
Mm-hmm.
But I do it. My memory isn't what it was. And if I could just have a chip in my head that I would remember everything, it's great. I mean, I've got this thing, I can look it up.
Mm-hmm.
But this thin little barrier of plastic is going to go away. And I'm going to connect directly to this. The issue for me, which is an ethical issue, is if you have the whole of the internet connected to your brain, who's controlling that flow of information? Corporations.
That's right.
Google, Microsoft, Apple, the people who already control the flow of information on there. And do you want that? I'm saying this as if it's my thought. It's not. This is William Gibson who talked about this. I'm just quoting William Gibson here. If you could jack directly into a matrix, a net, that information will be controlled by corporations. Do you want Coca-Cola commercials coming into your brain directly? I mean, that's what we're talking about.
Depends. Is it the Ray Charles ones? Then yes.
Depends which commercial.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. But talking about controlling devices with the brain, there's a cartoonist, a gentleman who had ALS, and has since passed away. I can't remember his name, but he had a computer system which would like lock onto his pupil, and he could draw using that system like right up until his final days.
We have that on campus as well.
Are you for real?
tracking.
Oh my God, dude!
So yeah, you can buy an eye tracker for a couple of $100s.
Oh
now.
my God, that is wild.
And it tracks your eyes, and you can use it to control something on the screen, or we use it to analyze what people look at.
Okay.
So if you put up a web page, where do people look?
Okay.
And by that, we can tell what people are looking at, what they're not looking at, and which parts of a web page are working, which aren't working, and we can make them better. That's kind of what we do. But
because I think my interest in transhumanism, selfishly, is like I'm a creative person. I want to keep making stuff, right? So like artists all throughout history, you've got these examples of like Henry Matisse. So like he had like some major physical ailments toward the end of his life, changed up his style, but he's still making stuff up until the very last second.
As a sidebar, I got to see some Henry Matisse in the museum in Boston this weekend.
I've got to mention. Did I talk about a year ago the magnets and the transhumanism, other sensors? Did I talk about that? Yeah, I mean, I've talked to you about it.
I think you did.
I think
You can do it.
That you can become an X-Man and have extra senses.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
you did say that.
So,
Say it again. So explain what that is.
So, if you cut open your fingers, which is a perfectly
Jonathan,
logical thing to do.
no crazy ideas here.
Yeah. So you cut open your fingers, and you put a very powerful magnet in there, and then stitch it up again. The fingers are the most sensitive part of the body, full of nerve endings. The nerves actually connect to the magnet, and what the nerves send, they send electrical signals through.
Yeah.
So the magnet, the electromagnetic signals from the magnet, travel down your nerves. Within 2 weeks, this is the bit that always blows my mind, your brain learns that it is getting new signals and processes them as a new sense. And so you can sense electromagnetic waves around you from the magnets, which blows me away. And this is, the kind of thing I think with transhumanism, and the big ethical question becomes, you can put a Neuralink in someone's brain, and a person who's paraplegic can suddenly communicate where they've never communicated before, which is wonderful. But when you put a Neuralink in your brain just so you remember things better, that's a different ethical question to fixing someone who is broken or improving someone,
Yeah.
which is okay. We allow plastic surgery
Right.
to improve a body. Why can we not allow people to improve their other things?
I'm waiting to combine the two technologies of plastic surgery and transhumanism, and I'm going to get magnetic breast implants.
Seventh sense.
That is possibly the best thing I've ever heard.
Thank you.
I mean, imagine if you could pick up paper clips with your nipples.
I
That would
mean,
just be
some
wonderful.
of us may already do that.
I mean, you would be straight in the Justice League with that.
That's
with
right.
That superpower.
Another
Let
one
me
of,
get that paperclip for you.
a Great Lakes Avenger.
I gotta tell you, I never use paper clips at work ever.
That's because they're all taken by people with magnetic nipples.
This guy,
Increasing your bandwidth, your memory retention, and things like that. And again, it's impossible. We're not trying to predict the future here, but is there a way you think, a possibility of in the future, if we have some kind of implant and you're connected to the internet and you're connected to, like, could you influence your brain's creativity to
All right,
become
I'm
a
gonna
better?
freak you out
Yeah,
now.
do it. Freak
I'm
me
gonna
out.
Freak you out.
Freak
now.
me out.
So, have you heard of deep neural stimulation?
I want to make more jokes, but go.
it's like deep tissue massage.
Yes.
It's
Yeah,
like shiatsu.
it's like ice fishing with neural implants. But what you're doing is, if you insert a very, very fine needle into the brain, we know that parts of the brain control depression or happiness or...
Why did you look at Jonathan when you said that?
Because he writes books on the subject. He's our resident expert who writes books. But appetite or, So if you can connect to that part of the brain, the brain is stimulated by electrical signals. If you can get exactly the right type and you can stimulate that brain, that part of the brain, I can pass a small current in through a wire and you'll suddenly feel hungry. Yeah? I can pass a small current in and you'll suddenly feel happy rather. So this is a potential treatment for depression,
Yes.
But the experiments they've done have proved they can do this. Where it gets really freaky is there are also parts of the brain that's, and again, this is not my research area, I've only read a
Yes.
little bit on this, but you can stimulate parts of the brain that cause achievement and ambition. So you can make someone more ambitious. Or the kind of love sensor, that you like something or dislike something. We can make you like something, dislike it. Now,
That won't be abused.
yeah.
It is interesting because I do.
This becomes if we want to treat depression, we give people drugs that change brain chemistry.
Yes.
Why is that any different to changing the signal in the brain? But once you start dealing with people's ambition, perhaps, is that changing a person in a way we shouldn't? And I don't have answers to this, but it's an ethical issue of we could make the whole population happy.
Yeah.
Are we okay with that?
It's interesting because I feel like, and I don't have any specific examples, but like stories of hearing people with like traumatic brain injury and how they come out of that and they exhibit different qualities or traits or things like that. And I'm sure that's
famous examples.
Yeah, yeah. And
Where people's behavior change because they have a tumor or damage to their brain.
But I feel like that's very much adjacent to what you're talking about. Is you're physically changing the brain in some way that's exhibiting a different response than
This is very much part of the argument about free will. I can alter your brain and make you make different decisions. So how do you have free will? It's
then it's a choice between like natural switch and corporate switch, right? Or like whoever's pressing the button.
My brain went somewhere. My brain went to a completely different place.
So like,
It's almost like there was a good Switch joke earlier.
I hate it when people make Aaron make that face and it's not me. Always my podcast goal.
but
you're too innocent, Aaron. That was.
Well, you see, that's why I got to get the thing in my brain, so I break myself with that. But there's the things in your brain that can adjust what you like. Do you think it's already in effect, and that's why so many people like Taylor Swift?
Hey.
Yes, Swifties are.
The needles are already in millions and millions of brains, billions of brains.
What's the most positive thing that's going to come out of AI in regards to creatives? We talked about that again, lowering that barrier of entry.
Yeah,
but what's
lowering the barrier of entry? I'm positive about that because I like playing with these toys and these tools, and I can now play and do things. But I really hope that everyone's scared of change. You know, the
people hate change,
but we have to look back historically. Everyone was scared of the printing press. Everyone was scared of photography. It would kill all art because we can now take photos. Everyone was scared of Photoshop because nothing's real. We've had these scares repeatedly through through our technology part of human civilization, all the way back to Aristotle being afraid of writing. Socrates wrote things down, and Aristotle thought you should memorize things. It would be the end of memory. So we've always been scared of these things as humans with change. And yet they've always kind of allowed us to move forwards and progress. So I am very much a technology optimist. I mean, atomic energy is a good thing in one way, but we have the atomic bomb. It's a bad thing.
What
There's
about
always
what
bad
about
and
the
good.
speed with which
Oh,
you're
the
talking
speed
about
is.
printing press to where we are
Photoshop.
now.
I told.
It was a long gap.
Yeah, the printing press took 1,000 years to have a big impact.
And now it's
The
just like-
speed. We talk about eras that we go through. The kind of industrial revolution, the digital revolution, and every time they get shorter and shorter, and we're in this exponential curve of getting faster and faster. And the current prediction is, and it's a very hard thing to predict, AI and human intelligence, when will it cross?
That's one of the questions
need
that I
to-
did have. Is
yeah,
at one point in time,
Most people are talking 2040, 2050. You know, that's when we're
But-
going to
but
reach
it-
this point
in our-
we call the singularity.
Okay.
In our lifetime.
Hmm?
In our lifetime.
Yeah.
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 We go from not having one of these to being one of these.
I'm an old guy, but I hope I see it. You know, but
I'll be able to retire right around the time AI takes over.
No one's going to retire by that point.
Good luck, Lucy.
Jonathan, you were going to say something positive about the coming.
In addition to being tools and just fun for people who are capable of using them, there's a lot of people I know who were incapable of creating art physically or incapable of writing a book due to depression or other mental ailments, ADHD. And AI has pretty much broken down that barrier and allowed a lot of people who would normally have physical or mental barriers to creating art. So I think that's really positive. I know people personally.
What happens to the people who don't have access to this?
oh,
That's
yeah,
a good point too, because we talk about like neural
The
implants
issue
and things like that.
yeah,
It's like that's not going to be available to
yeah,
everybody.
Inequality is a big issue. If Neuralink have chips that improve memory and speed of processing, and you become like a superhuman if you put one in, who's going to employ the other people?
Yeah.
You're never going to employ. You're always going to employ. So this is what actually transhumanism is all about. Talking about the ethical issues of the future with that kind of stuff. Yeah.
We talked about regulation a little bit.
Yeah,
and how
we did
that's gonna
earlier,
be
yeah.
crucial, but always lags
Always lagging behind.
behind.
And, and they always bring in like the heads of these companies. They're
Yeah.
like, "Tell me why my kid can't be on the TikTok." And the person's like, "Sir, I'm the CEO of Facebook. You know, like
My favorite one is from the British House of Lords, which you know is full of elderly people who shouldn't be there. And they had this old guy.
We have
who-
that same thing in Washington D.C.
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Yeah, exactly. But they had this elderly politician who was from the Conservative, the right-wing party in England, and he was saying, I went on the Labour, the left-wing website, he said, and I was disgusted. The website was surrounded by gay pornography adverts, and I think it's disgusting that and a younger member of the House had to explain to him that the advertisements were based on his browsing preferences. On camera in the House of Lords. Brilliant.
that is pretty great.
That explains all the ads I've been getting.
Magnetic nipples.
Yes.
Yeah,
Aaron-
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna end on a worrying note. Like if we're hoping for regulation to make some kind of a dent in the
No.
against the negative impact, it's just not
It's
going to happen.
Although the Department of Justice did appoint an AI consultant expert today, the first one that there is in government, there's an actual AI kind of at a high level to look at AI regulation and things. So the very first person, he's a professor from Harvard, computers and technology and law professor. So
Well,
yeah.
at least they're thinking about it on some level.
Yeah, which is, I mean, if we look at our leader, this technology is going to have such a big impact, and I worry that nobody's talking about it.
Yeah.
You know, at a government level, really. You know, about jobs are going to change. Driving jobs are going away.
Yes.
10 years, 20 years, who knows? But they're going away. That
It was already in that Wolverine movie, and that was a real thing.
that technology's not going back in the box. My girlfriend has a top of the range Subaru. I drove the other day. I'm on the highway. It has an auto drive feature.
Take your hands
I
off the
switched
wheel.
it on and I didn't touch the controls for an hour. It
Yeah, I've got that.
recognizes cars in front. It stays in
lane.
the lane. I just sat there. I could
is-
have
it is
read a
great.
book. I was
Yeah.
just, you know, it blew me away. I deal with this technology. It blew me away. You know, it's amazing.
Aaron, what do you got?
My Subaru does the same thing. I love it.
My Subaru is a little older. It doesn't have that technology.
But when we go to Independent Creator Con, March 9th, New Haven, Connecticut, we'll be taking that Subaru.
Yeah. the most Subarus of ruse. Jonathan, you want to plug your Kickstarter?
Oh, sure. Magic and Fangs, Eternal Seasons is on Kickstarter for 7 more days. I had a little help from AI in breaking that down and creating characters.
We'll put a link to your Kickstarter in the chat.
Thanks. I'm interested. I love the technology because so often writing feels like a solitary endeavor, and this finally gives me like a partner to bounce ideas off of. I don't mean to sound very lonely, but
No, we
No,
talk.
it's what we're doing in class now. I'm getting all my students. We lean into the technology, try and get them to use it. Many professors are saying, don't use ChatGPT to write. We're saying use it, but
You're gonna have to.
use it in the right way because
Yes.
it's not going away. We've got to learn that they're going to use it, and
Yes.
we have to teach them how to use it properly. And so I have them have conversations with GPT about things, and then they have to critically analyze what they've talked about. But we've got to make people. And again, it's going too fast for us
Yeah.
to do things.
My philosophy towards it, I might have said this to Evan like a little while ago, but like I'm using the learning of the AI to make myself a better artist. So like if I want to know the perspective of anatomy from this perspective, or like what it looks like if somebody's standing on a water tower at night with this stuff, and like I'm drawing a bunch of those references as I'm trying to figure out the scene. I'm improving my human skills from what the AI can show me.
right from those examples.
Yeah, so like that's kind of my philosophy with it.
And I don't, as I keep saying, you can't predict things. In a year you might be using it totally differently.
Right.
It might have different abilities, and you might use it in a different way, but you'll be using it and
Yeah.
still creating art because that's what you do.
Right.
And that's the way I see it. I'm very optimistic about things. I think
Yeah.
I do think of this tool thing. That however it evolves, you'll use it, but you'll still be who you are and still be creating.
Right, and it's almost, I mean, it's like being a director. I've shown Evan some of the pages of the new stuff I'm working on. I think it's some of the best pages I've ever worked on.
I would agree.
And I don't know if I would have gotten to that level of it without generating that reference, right? So is that like using performance-enhancing drugs? I don't know. But in the world of art,
Anything goes.
So why don't we all just think of it as steroids? Art on
yeah.
steroids is a kind of good way.
I'm very pro steroids. I think, yeah, I want to see what really juiced up athletes can do. Absolutely.
oh god, that's a thing in
Let's
the
see
news
what-
too.
let's
Did
see-
you hear about this? What was it? Was like some new sports league where they're encouraging athletes to use performance-enhancing drugs. Have you heard about this? I don't know if it's like Russian backed or if it's like associated with the WWF, but it feels like it should be, right? But this is a real thing. I don't have any of the background information on it, but
I don't know why, but those Facebook reels that
Yeah.
can pop up and show you videos you're meant to be interested in. I never understand why it shows me what it shows me, but at the moment I keep getting these bodybuilding videos of people who inject oil into their muscles.
oh god,
And have these.
You're not
and it's
big
like,
in-
why are you showing me this? I don't need to see this. Maybe because I click on them because they look weird. It shows me more.
yeah.
I enjoy the synthol videos that I get where the gigantic biceps that are just deformed. Oh,
Those ones, yeah, they're just weird as hell. Yeah.
In a perfect world, I would just get ones where people are like inking drawings and also like a whole bunch of gear of bleep bloops because those are my favorites. But I get them so
I like
rarely.
watching people cooking in different countries. I
very
do
practical.
like that. I like seeing people cook in foreign places and cook weird stuff. I like that. But
Yeah, it seems way more practical than people connecting things for bleep bloops. You can't eat that.
all right. I think we're good. Are you good?
Yeah, I think that was great.
Any final thoughts?
I've got no more thoughts.
All right.
I'd let the AI do that now.
Yes. Yeah. Well, this is take us home, Aaron.
Yeah, you've been listening to the Comic Shop or watching. This is the Comic Shop doing a podcast. I'm Aaron Z. Lee.
Oh, and I'm Evan Coy. We're here with a very special guest.
Jonathan
It says
Ashline.
Martin Kinney, actually,
Oh,
and then
Martin
we're here with.
Come on, Evan. Pronounce my
We're here
name
with Damian
wrong again.
Schofield.
Schofield.
Just the ultimate disrespect.
Oh, we'll get AI to teach me how to pronounce your last name properly. But
Indie Comics podcast next week.
oh, we're doing
Oh.
Indie Comics podcast next week. We're getting ready for Aaron and I
I'll,
going to
I'll join you from Vietnam.
yes,
wow.
safe travels. We're sending you overseas for a month to go explore some
I
new
know,
cultures.
I'm comic buying for you in Vietnam.
Oh,
Okay.
for real?
Yeah.
Heck yeah! If you see anything cool over there, heck yeah, man.
Yeah, that's it.
Apologies
Apologies
to
to
Jack
Jack Kirby. Everybody do steroids. Have a good night.